Tonight, standing shoulder to shoulder with national pride. The patriotic push during uncertain times.
As the world becomes more divided and dangerous, Canadians are uniting.
Thousands gather in the nation's capital to mark a memorable Canada Day.
I think we have all the feels about Canada right now, elbows up for sure.
And internal trade barriers eliminated, what it means for you and the economy. Also, the urgent call to reduce tolls on the Confederation Bridge.
Get people looking out there and starting to choose the Atlantic option opposed to the Amazon option.
Plus, a feature of faces.
All of these faces are jazzed up versions of people that I've known throughout my life.
The passion project that transformed a Fredericton home into a new local landmark.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Heather Butts.
Good evening and happy Canada Day. At a time when this country has for months faced threats to our sovereignty and economy, today Canadians stood united, honoring the people who live here and have built this nation. A surge of patriotism from coast to coast to coast. We begin tonight with CTV's Rachel Aiello and the celebration in a sea of red and white in the nation's capital.
National pride swelled all around this Canada Day.
Definitely feeling pretty patriotic today.
Elbows up and all.
That patriotism peaking in the capital.
I think we have all the feels about Canada right now, elbows up for sure.
What makes you the proudest to be Canadian?
We get to be free.
Well, happy birthday, Canada.
Today, Canadians from coast to coast to coast came together to celebrate the country's 158th. Among the revelers, Ottawa's Joan O'Malley, who 60 years ago sewed the first prototype of the Canadian flag. And Cape Breton singer-songwriter Heather Rankin, as well as Vancouver-born actor and businessman Ryan Reynolds, who were invested as officers of the Order of Canada for their contributions. This year's bash was big, but the strained relationship with the United States also loomed large over Mark Carney's first Canada Day as Prime Minister.
We find ourselves in a situation where our economy is being attacked. As the world becomes more divided and dangerous, Canadians are uniting.
The sovereignty threats from south of the border motivated many to brave the Ottawa humidity as a show of unity.
This year more than any, we need to come together and celebrate what a fantastic country we have.
It's been a really challenging year in some ways for Canada, but I think we've really come together and responded positively.
Celebrating her first Canada Day in the country as a citizen, one Torontonian who came to the capital had a message for Americans.
We are strong and free, and we will always be.
Canadian Heritage says thousands attended events in the capital today, joining millions more in towns and cities right across this beautiful country. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
While some Canadians are steering clear of the U.S., we asked Americans visiting on Canada's birthday how they feel about the strained relationship.
It's personal to us. We don't agree with our president right now, and for many years, as political things have happened in the United States, I've been known to break out into the Canadian national anthem at home.
Everybody's been so friendly. We put a magnet on our car that says, "Dear Canada, we hate him also."
This is also a very unique time for Canadians living south of the border and our ambassador to the United States working to get a deal done. CTV's Adrian Gabriel joins us tonight from Washington. What is the reality of living there now under the threat of a trade war?
Heather, for Canadians here in the United States, the first 6 months of President Donald Trump's second term have left many feeling like outsiders, in some cases like an adversary on American soil. We spoke with Canada's ambassador to the U.S. here in Washington, D.C. today about the renewed patriotism many are feeling south of the border on this Canada Day.
What we're seeing here now, as we're seeing in Canada, is a much more sort of overt expression of our national identity, of our values, of what maybe we share with the Americans, but also the ways in which we're different. I really have been feeling that for many, many months now, and I really feel it today.
Canadians in the U.S. who spoke with CTV News say Trump's looming foreign policy has cast a shadow of doubt on their future abroad.
We do have friends that are on O1 visas or green cards, which are a privilege, not a right. I have two personal friends that will not cross the border right now in fear of being detained, questioned. One of my friends, she has two children that were born here. She doesn't want to be taken away from them because they're American, and she's on a green card.
There was no word today from the White House on the trade talks which have resumed, though with the calendar turning to July and a deadline for a U.S.-Canada trade agreement set for the 21st of this month, the clock is now ticking for a deal to be reached between Ottawa and those here in D.C. Heather.
Adrian Gabriel in Washington for us tonight. Thank you. Free trade within this country by Canada Day was a cornerstone of Mark Carney's campaign. And on deadline day, experts agree he lived up to his pledge. But that doesn't mean the work is done. CTV's Colton Prail on what the feds and provinces will have to do to realize the full economic benefits of interprovincial trade.
158 years ago, a few provinces bet on a big idea, that they'd be stronger together than they ever could be apart.
Working together to build one economy, Mark Carney was graded on his economic cornerstone. In its annual report card, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business gave the federal government a B for its work on internal trade, but would upgrade to an A after it dropped all federal free trade exemptions Monday. Ontario and Nova Scotia are the top performing provinces, while Quebec and Newfoundland are the worst.
That's not all of the work. It's really the policy changes and the regulatory work and the standards changes that has to come about for free trade to actually take place.
One of the biggest moves forward was in Carney's Major Projects Bill, C5, legislating a push for increased mutual recognition, where Ottawa will accept one province's standards as equal across the country. Provinces like Ontario, Manitoba, and New Brunswick have already moved to adopt mutual recognition for some alcohol sales, interprovincial labor, and more.
The dialogue, the exchange of data and know-how actually propels towards even better common platforms.
But others are worried.
They're doing this mutual recognition in a way that is going to risk a race to the bottom. So basically the lowest standards in any province being accepted as good enough.
In trucking, that's a concern. Instead, they're hoping the urgency around internal trade will lead to harmonized regulations for oversized cargo, driving restrictions, and rest stops on major highways.
If we want the inputs to go and the freight and the materials to do these nation building projects, this is another foundational piece. It's not rocket science to get this fixed.
While Ottawa focuses on reducing regulations, some economists say the best way to help Canadian trade is to build roads, rails, and ports as quickly as possible. Heather.
Colton Prail in Ottawa. Thank you. The middle-class tax cut promised by the Liberal government is now in effect. The cuts drop the lowest marginal personal income tax rate from 15% to 14%. The Liberals predicted the average family will save $840 on next year's taxes, while the Parliamentary Budget Office estimates it will only be $280. People in Atlantic Canada are eager to see another campaign promise come to fruition, making it easier and more cost-effective for trade and travel within this country. A drop in tolls at the Confederation Bridge. But as Maria Saru reports, with no firm timeline, frustration is growing.
Every time a car crosses the Confederation Bridge, the driver pays $50 and some change. That's despite a campaign promise from the Prime Minister to cut the toll to $20. So far, the cost hasn't budged, and some are starting to lose faith.
Not going to happen. That was just an election promise, in my opinion.
I'll believe it when I see it. It's typical politicians' promises. You never hear the truth.
It's the only road to and from the island. And for some tourists, the toll is a small price to pay to see PEI.
I think, to be honest, it's fair enough.
It's beautiful over here. We're staying on a little farm. It's so nice.
But trailers or commercial trucks pay even more. And for big businesses here and across the East Coast, it adds up.
There are probably 40 or 50 trucks a day for the same company going back and forth. It's a lot.
Nearly 1 million vehicles cross the Confederation Bridge annually, and business leaders say every truckload of supplies drives up the cost of doing business on the island.
The province's potato industry is one of the hardest hit, with up to $7 million in toll-related costs. And small and medium-sized businesses could be more competitive if the tolls are cut. That's according to the Greater Summerside Chamber of Commerce.
Get people looking out there and starting to choose the Atlantic option opposed to the Amazon option.
CTV News reached out to the Prime Minister's office for comment on his commitment to cutting bridge tolls and ferry prices, but didn't get a response by our deadline. PEI's premier called the issue a trade barrier, and local politicians pushed for the drop to be done by Canada Day. Egmont MP Robert Morrissey was one of them.
I have every confidence that the Prime Minister will deliver on the commitment that he made on behalf of us. And I'm in contact with his office on a regular basis. In fact, I spoke to them yesterday.
Morrissey says the bridge is federally owned but operated by a private group. So lowering the toll means negotiations. He hopes for movement by the end of the summer. But for now, any movement here comes at full price. Maria Saru, CTV News, Borden Carlton.
An out-of-control wildfire in the southern BC community of Lytton has prompted a local state of emergency and evacuation order.
There is currently one dwelling or two properties that are on evacuation order. The Lytton First Nation has issued an alert for several other properties. The fire has not grown in size over the course of the day, so we're still at 5.73 hectares in size.
It's one of more than 70 wildfires currently burning across British Columbia. In 2021, a wildfire devastated the village, killing 2 people and forcing hundreds to flee. A partial verdict has been decided in the trial of disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Jurors reached a unanimous decision on whether Combs is guilty of 2 counts of sex trafficking and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. But they're split on the most serious charge of racketeering conspiracy. The judge has asked the jury to keep deliberating to try to reach a decision on that last count before revealing their verdict. Days ahead of a pivotal planned visit to the White House by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump says Israel has agreed to terms for a ceasefire deal in Gaza. In a Truth Social post, the U.S. president added Israel is on board with conditions to finalize a 60-day ceasefire. He also warned Hamas to accept the deal before conditions worsen. The U.S. Senate has passed President Trump's sweeping domestic policy bill by the narrowest of votes.
The bill as amended is passed.
Vice President J.D. Vance cast the deciding vote to break a 50-50 tie after a tense overnight session. The massive bill now goes to the House of Representatives, where Republicans hope to pass it along to Trump's desk by his July 4th deadline. Coming up, saying goodbye to a sugar-sweetened beverage tax.
To do it over just 2 years, it's too short of a time period.
A controversial tax has fizzled out, but was it effective? A controversial tax on sugary drinks in Newfoundland and Labrador, the first of its kind in Canada, has now been tossed out. Here's CTV's Garrett Barry on why so many see it as a sticky situation.
As you travel around this province, it becomes pretty easy to tell why Newfoundland and Labrador's sugar-sweetened beverages tax fizzled out.
There's all sorts of people don't like being told what to do, especially when it comes to something that they've either eaten or drinking all their life.
Especially with a possible provincial election on the horizon.
There's definitely been complaints about it, just like complaining about the price for sure, which is something that where I work, we can't do anything about it.
You won't find many defenders of the policy designed to dissuade consumers from sugary drinks by making them a little more expensive. It was one of the first of its kind in the country and part of a plan to battle obesity, diabetes, and other diseases in the province. Opposition parties slammed the tax as a mere cash grab, and public opinion quickly soured. But This week, a new evaluation released by the Heart and Stroke Foundation said there's signs the tax actually had an impact, reducing consumption of taxed beverages, but increasing consumption of other untaxed sugary beverages that were excluded from the policy, like chocolate milk or smoothies.
These are the types of swings in behavior in the population we were hoping to see. But to do it over just 2 years, it's too short of a time period, and you need to change it. The tax didn't hit the mark exactly.
But the fate of this policy has already been sealed, repeal set for July 1st. Newfoundland and Labrador's Department of Finance didn't respond to our questions about whether this new research would be considered.
We were disappointed because we didn't see any evidence that there was a meaningful evaluation done at the government level.
Researchers worry that with just 2.5 years to study, they might not get enough data to understand whether these changes would hold up long term or could work in other provinces. Gary Perry, CTV News, St. John's.
Time for a short break, but still ahead tonight, from heartbreak to hope. Why this young man is pitching in to make the grass a little greener for his dad. A punishing wildfire season in Saskatchewan has resulted in devastating loss for many people. It's what's fueled a young boy's determination to step up and help his family make the grass a bit greener. CTV's Carla Shinkurek explains.
10-year-old Hunter Larson found out on June 2nd that his dad's house in Denair Beach was destroyed by wildfire. It's a house he lived in part-time.
We lost both our houses in Denair, and my dad is living in a van with my dog. I cried at first, but like 2 days later, I was fine.
The school year ended early because of wildfires encroaching on Creighton, where he lives. So he had some extra time on his hands and started thinking of a way he could help.
So Hunter wanted to raise some money to help his dad out because they lost both of the homes on the property in Denair Beach.
So he decided to use his lawn mowing skills, ones he's been working on since he was 8 years old. He's mowed 30 lawns already and raised $1,500.
It's been quite devastating, so this has kept our minds off things, that's for sure.
He says it's hard work mowing lawns from about noon until 8 at night, but says it's all worth it.
They're proud of me for doing this. And they thank me for doing this.
His mom isn't surprised by Hunter's determination.
He's very selfless, so his entire life he's just been so helpful. Like, if you ask any of his teachers, he's just like the sweetest, kindest boy. Like, he's just so helpful. He just wants to help everybody.
So does he have a goal that he wants to reach?
So how much would you like to raise?
I don't know.
One thing he does know, he wants to keep up with the project all summer, and they've started a GoFundMe page. Carla Shinkurek, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Our Bell Media family is celebrating the end of an era for Canadian sports broadcasting legend, TSN's hockey insider, Bob McKenzie.
And I'm trading my semi-retired life of doing the World Juniors, draft rankings for Leaf games, free agent frenzy, trade deadline for absolutely nothing. Well, nothing in terms of real work because today is my retirement day.
That way I don't have to hand it out.
A distinguished career spanning 48 years, and topping it off, a surprised Bob McKenzie gifted a silver stick honoring his longevity and excellence in sports coverage.
7 on the 24, three-pointer SGA puts it in.
Canadian basketball superstar Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has signed a record-breaking contract. The gifted point guard's new 4-year deal, worth a whopping $285 million, is the richest annual salary in NBA history. He is fresh off capturing his first career championship with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Cherishing all things Canadian, members of the military showcasing sacrifice and service around the globe shared this message.
Hello from Task Force Middle East. We're deployed on Op Armara, and we would just like to wish everybody back home Happy Canada Day. One fight Canada!
Still ahead, a tribute to Canadian faces. Why a New Brunswick man turned his home into one big canvas. Canadians take pride in distinctly Canadian things, people and places. So we leave you tonight with a Fredericton doctor's passion project, one that on this Canada Day had many people stopping by, including CTV's Sarah Plowman.
These are the first two panels we did.
No words were used for Brian McKinnon's conversation piece. Face upon face on the front of his house. By now, people have heard.
Wow. Gerald, good to meet you. Happy Canada Day.
And want to see it themselves.
I like the colors and everything. It just sticks right out nice.
The idea sprouted from the artist's imagination. Celebrate those who had an impact on his life by digitally painting them and putting their faces on panels. Meet these 250.
All of these faces are jazzed up versions of people that I've known throughout my life. I wanted to make a really powerful work that people would respond to the instant they saw it.
The faces are mostly Canadian and mostly positive, but some are angry. Thankfully, that's not how McKinnon's wife felt when he surprised her with the new addition.
It's absolutely wonderful to me. It's colorful. It brings you joy to look at it.
The artist is a partially retired doctor whose passion has always been projects like this. He's decorated his shutters with toys. That clothesline is actually a sculpture. Inside, work hangs in every room, brightening up all angles. He's played with toys, colors, and shapes, but the physician's biggest fascination is faces.
Well, I think they tell you more about the personality of individuals than any other part of the body do. I think the hands and the movement of our hands do something, but there's nothing like a face, and there's nothing nearly as interesting to me as a human.
Good luck finding yours, though, or his. Is your face here?
I can't tell you.
It's more like a game of guess who. Perhaps that's the point, and a way to engage the artist and onlookers' imaginations. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
That is our newscast for this Canada Day. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. We'll take a final look at the sights and sounds of celebrations in the nation's capital. Good night.